Everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. Today we're going to go over some more War of the Spark spoilers. But before we get into the video, guys, I'd like to ask y'all to please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, let's get into the spoilers. Today's first spoiler starts you off with some Dreahorde Twins. 3 generic, 1 red creature, zombie jackal warrior. It is an uncommon when Dreahorde Twins enters the battlefield, amass 2. The amass ability says put 2+1/+1 counters on an army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. And then zombie tokens you control have trample. It is a 2/2. I was listening to my buddy, Zach Grubbs, aka Blackout, aka Dragon Master, or whatever. Anyways, he was talking about how with these new Dreahorde cards, there's one that does Trample, there's one that does Menace, there's one that does Death Touch, there's one that does Flying, and then if you're zombie, I want to say zombie tokens, but I'm not sure. And again, most of these also say zombie tokens and not just zombies in general. Which is why I prefer Death Baron to these Dreahorde creatures and support zombie tokens. But there is also one that does the lifelink if your zombie token is above 6 power. And so they're just continuing the special abilities. I think the only ones we're missing right now is First Strike, Double Strike, which is basically the same thing, kind of. And Vigilance, I think, is the only things we're missing. I think this one's for Trample. Yeah, so that should be it. And it's kind of cool. I like that they're doing that. Every single zombie's buffing other zombies. I do like that. Although I really wish that it was not just zombie tokens for some of these cards. As you can see here, this in fact says zombie tokens and not just zombies. So, would be nice, but hey, you get what you get. We have another vehicle today, Silent Submersible. It is 2 blue mana, artifact vehicle. It is a rare. Whenever Silent Submersible deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card. And for those that don't know what vehicles do, they have a crew ability. This one's crew is 2, so you would tap any number of creatures you control with total power 2 or more. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. It is a 2/3. I like that it does have that whole deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card. It's a 2/3 for 2, which is pretty good, as long as you, of course, can crew it. But what I really wish that, and actually, I'm thinking there's a synergy with maybe Karn. I'll get back to you on that. But there is a way to make this make them become a creature without crewing them. Although being able to crew it into a 2/3 is nice, because it's basically not sacrificing your good creature to something that might potentially be a mess up. You're just sacrificing your vehicle, and where that is okay, it can be the difference in between winning and losing the match. Let me check this out real quick. I think it was Karn or the Spark. I'm gonna do this while continuing the video, so that way we'll come back to it if I can find it by the end of the video. But I do believe there's a synergy with Karn to make this even better. Here is an amazing card that I was very shocked and surprised that they printed. So it's Spark Double. It is 3 generic, 1 blue. As you can see here, Jace has made a copy of himself, and I guess has the same powers because it's a Spark Double. Or maybe that's what Jace's Spark can do now. Jace looks like he's all of a sudden got a power up, and I don't know how. But it is a creature illusion. You may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter if it's a creature. It enters with an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. And it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous even if you take the planeswalker part off of this card, okay? Because this card, it can make it to where, let me think of something that's absolutely insane. Tesla Karlov can be ridiculous sometimes because she doubles up death rattle triggers. I know that's not exactly the same term that you would use in this game, but as Hearthstone, but that is the term I would use. Death rattle triggers are when creatures die, they do something. And so not only would you double it, you would, if I'm not mistaken, quadruple it. And that's what's really cool about this. And then you have the Planeswalker ability. So, like, for instance, I'm just going to look, because I do have the War of the Spark page pulled up. You won't see this on the screen, but I will pull this up. You could make it to where... Oh, Davriel Kane. Where did get Davriel Kane go? Davriel. Yes, Davriel. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has one or fewer cards in hand, Davriel Rogue Shadow Mage deals 2 damage to them. You could be dealing 4 damage a turn just on a static ability from a Planeswalker and keeping your opponent low because his -1 still discards cards. You could be discarding 2 cards a turn and dealing 4 damage without paying mana for real, other than the initial, 3 to bring out the actual Davriel, 4 to bring out the Spark double. That's quite ridiculous. And that's an uncommon Planeswalker. That's not even like an actual rare Planeswalker. Here's another one for you. Liliana Dreadhorde General. Let's go Mythic. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. You're drawing 2 cards per death of creature, and that's including token creatures, which Liliana actually makes a token creature with her +1, which you can do twice now because you have 2 of them. I could even see something along the lines of Gideon Blackblade. He becomes, every single turn, he becomes a 4/4 human soldier. Well, first off, you can spark double that, and just make him a 4/4, well, he'll be a 4/4 human soldier anyway. But on top of that, because I've already thought about this before this card came out, Helm of the Host makes it the same way. It makes a copy of equipped creature. That creature, if it's legendary, isn't a legendary. The token isn't a legendary. And so you could just make a whole deck around copying Gideon of the Blackblade or something like that. And I think they're actually making Gideon Oathsworn as well, which should have an ability similar. So you could just be copying Gideons all day, and that would be crazy. Like, honestly, an Azorius copy Gideon deck would be really ridiculous. Because then you could also, oh god, guys, let's go over the copy cards real quick. We have Replicate. We have a Jumpstart card, which is Quasi-Duplicate. And then now we have Spark Double. We have, oh, dude, I'm brewing, guys. I'm brewing this. I'm telling you, it's going to be great. It's going to be janky as hell because you have to have a Gideon in your opening hand or this fails badly. But it's going to happen. I did want to just bring that up. I do also want to show you guys back to the Silent Submersible. Oh, it's not even submarine, it's submersible. Well, that's dumb. Anyways, going back to the new Karn that's coming out, Karn the Great Creator. His +1 ability is until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. Now, granted, that actually would end up making this a 2/2 creature, but it gets it gets past the whole crewing ability, and on top of that, it still would be able to draw a card, and of course, look, it doesn't become an artifact creature, it doesn't become a creature until you crew it, so this actually could happen, and Karn can +1 this is a +1 ability, not even a negative ability, so you can keep on going with this, until your next turn, so it stays around, as a 2/2, and that's pretty cool, I like that, yeah. So that's just one way. I'm sure if I had stuck around on it all day, I could figure out more ways. But let's continue onwards. So we have Spark Double. God, I'm just loving the art, loving the card. I want 4 copies of it now. It is a rare, of course, so I'm going to take a minute on MTGA to get it. If anybody knows my actual channel, God, it takes forever to get rare wild cards, but we're working on it. Enter the God Eternals. 2 generic, 2 white, and a black. Sorcery rare. Before we go any further, I'd like to show you guys. Oh my God, it's beautiful. I kind of already know the rest of the spoilers for this video, so this is the first time you guys are actually seeing them, if you've been following along with me. Bontu and Kefnet here, coming out of the planar bridge, and boy, do they look pimped out in Lazotep. Oh my God, it's great. Enter the God Eternals deals 4 damage to target creature, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. The reason, before I go any further, let's stop at the dot here. The reason why it says you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way is because you can have spells that deal an extra damage. That you can have enchantments that say that. I can't think of any off the top of my head. There might be something in this new set I haven't seen yet, or I'm just not remembering right now, that might say that. I almost want to stick my foot in my mouth and say Jaya might almost say something like that, but I think that's about red sources. I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to y'all on that, but I do believe that's the reason why they wanted it to be like that. Granted, it's not going to be that different, 4 damage, draining a creature for 4 is pretty cool already. And then, now, granted, not for the mana cost. So let's keep going. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. They just milled 4. What's 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 20. No, 4 times 15. 4 times 15 is their whole deck, and so 4 cards can be a lot. So that's what I'm getting at. It is ridiculous already, and then you get the amass force. You make a 4/4 army, or you already have an army, and you make it bigger. So I do like this card. I think that it might see some type of play. Obviously, with the whole amass theme, I think it will definitely see play. But I do like this. What I really like about this card is that mill decks haven't really had a creature that's worth a darn. Like, for instance, I think the only creature in Standard right now that's worth a darn is, like, Wall of Forgotten something. But that mills 4 cards when it comes in, but it's a defender, like, 0/4, I want to say. It doesn't handle anything being thrown at your face. All they need is more than 1 creature, and you're still taking damage every turn. But anyways, I do like this card. I love the art. I just love the pimpin' Bontu and Kefnet just coming out. Bontu's fake freaking... for those that don't know, Bontu actually betrayed the other gods by bringing Nicol Bolas onto Amonkhet and basically giving up his plane and everything. And then he led the other gods into the whole plan. So Bontu's pimping false god looking self just walking out here head first. He's the first eternal god on the plane. I love it. Speaking of Bontu, God Eternal Bontu. 3 generic, 2 black, legendary creature zombie god. It is a mythic rare. It has menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, then draw that many cards. When God Eternal Bontu dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. A lot of words, but I think it works out. They actually are kind of doing this with all the gods now. If you've watched my last video, I had the boar god. I don't even want to try to remember what his name is right now. I think it's Elog or something like that, but it's the razor boar that's going to kill Domri. Anyways, not the point. Point is that this is what they're doing with gods now. Before they were indestructible, now they just come back. So, granted, you will have to pay 5 mana every single time you want to bring this back. He will be dug 3 deep, so that's another thing. You'll have to have some type of card advantage to consistently play your gods out. But yeah, I still like them. Being able to sacrifice creatures to draw cards instantly is good. It's a 5/5/6. It's a 5 mana 5/6 with menace. The only thing it's missing is like haste, honestly. But that, you know, then you would probably have to take out the whole putting back into your library. I do not like that they added or is put into exile, because that was the way to get rid of gods back then. That was why Vraska's Contempt went up in price like a whole hell of a lot, because it took care of planeswalkers in the gods. It was ridiculous when Vraska's Contempt first came out. But anyways, this is a great card. I really enjoy it. There's Tamiyo, Collector of Tales, 2 generic, 1 blue, 1 green, mana, legendary planeswalker Tamiyo, and it is a rare. Spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. That's pretty good recently. We've had a lot of discard decks where they're duressing you, they're what's the other one? Thought Erasure. Thought Erasure has been seen a lot, especially in Control, for obvious reasons, honestly, but hey, granted, you have to get Tamiyo out first, and these types of cards are seen pretty early. Plague Crafter is pretty good for not having to sacrifice the permanent. I'm trying to think of other cards. Eldest Reborn. Not being able to sacrifice permanents. Oh, it actually shuts down the land destruction deck. No, land destruction deck says destroy target lands. Yeah, but anyways, so there's certain niche things that this cuts out. +1, choose a non-land card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library, put all cards with the chosen name from among them into your hand, and the rest in your graveyard. That's actually kind of scary unless you're playing Sultai. And then -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. But then, of course, you get the graveyard recursion. This actually would go really cool in a Sultai deck. Muldrotha, just keep on naming Muldrotha as your permanent card, or non-land card, and just keep on dredging yourself until you, or I guess not dredging. Somebody will skewer me in the chat if I say dredge. Just keep on milling yourself. There you go, milling yourself until you get your Muldrotha out, and then you start playing the actual game. You know, you can return land cards. If you're playing Crucible Worlds, you can get it out before Tamiyo's out. So yeah, I like that. I think there's an interesting Sultai deck coming up. I really do. And for those that don't know, blue, green, black Sultai. Tamiyo's Epiphany. 3 generic, 1 blue. I did not know that she could fly, by the way, but she is flying, and I guess the scrolls help her fly. I really don't know anything about Tamiyo. Please skewer me in the comments section below. Skewer the critics, too. Sorcery common. Scry 4, then draw 2 cards. Tamiyo wished only to observe the war, but she soon realized neutrality was not an option. We actually, me and Zach, we actually predicted that she wasn't really going to be there for the war. She was going to come catalog it. And that's why I'm so interested in this card. And as you can see, I keep forgetting his name, even though all I could think about when I saw this picture was, oh my god, it's Kefnet. Kefnet is coming to whoop her out of the freaking sky. Oh, and look at his beastly wings. Oh, that's so cool. I love the Eternalized Kefnet. He looks cool, gold and blue, Lazotep and all. There was a card this reminded me of, and I'm going to pull it up so I don't put my own foot in my mouth almost instantly. There was a card in, we're going to say Aether Revolt, and it was Glimmer of Genius. Glimmer of Genius was same mana cost, 3 generic, 1 blue. It was an instant instead of a sorcery. That might be the difference here. But it said scry 2, then draw 2 cards. And this card was played so commonly, I almost couldn't find a copy in my LGS. Because they would, every time somebody would trade it in, somebody would go buy it out. Or even when the game store owner would actually open up packs, they would just instantly buy them out. And so being able to scry 4 is ridiculous. Now, granted, the sorcery cost on this is pretty bad. But with Teferi, you get rid of the sorcery speed and you put it in instant speed again. So maybe that's where it will find its home. I do like it because you get to see 6 cards. 4 and 2, 6. So you scry away 4 cards, you draw the last 2, and then that's that's a 10th of your deck that you've seen from 4 mana, and that gets pretty crazy eventually. Yeah, I like this card. Yeah. God Eternal Rhonas. 3 generic, 2 green, legendary creature, zombie god. It's a mythic rare. It has Death Touch. Whenever God Eternal Rhonas enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. When God Eternal Rhonas dies or is put into exile from the graveyard, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. Oh, something else I forgot to mention. Instead of the God Eternals used to be indestructible. Or excuse me, the false gods used to be indestructible. The fallen gods, they're not false gods. That's something else. Priests of the false gods. They're actually fallen gods. And so they used to be indestructible, and of course they're not because look, they died. But now this is their kind of new indestructibility recursion. I do like that they're actually at playable mana. Still, they were at playable mana before, but now they're still at playable mana. And then this one has Death Touch, which is pretty good. I mean, I still feel like that's kind of overkill. I feel like they kind of should have gave him Trample, but hey, whatever. Tomato. I love that he's just surrounded by Eternals, but I also like that he just doubles the power. He doesn't double the toughness, and that's the one thing I think he's missing. But I guess maybe in a First Strike deck, but First Strike's normally in red and white. I don't know. I don't know where Rhonas will fit, but I feel like all the God Eternals will fit somewhere. So let's keep going. Speaking of, the last one of the day that I have for you today, and the third to the last. The last one will be a catcher. This is God Eternal Kefnet. 2 generic, 2 blue. Legendary creature, zombie god. Mythic rare. Flying. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card and you may cast that copy. The copy costs 2 less to cast. When God Eternal Kefnet dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. So, I like this card compared to the other gods. The other gods, this one, enter the battlefield. This one, enter the battlefield. This one has a lasting effect and makes you want to keep it on the battlefield. It doesn't have the power of 5, but Kefnet wasn't really known for being strong, I guess. But I like this because it's going to go well. There's going to be a new Spells Matters deck, and it's going to be glorious. And then it's going to copy a lot. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be Jeskai colors, which is my favorite tricolors. All hell Narset. Please, God, please let Narset be an amazing planeswalker and forever and ever. I just want Narset to be awesome. So, yeah, that's what I believe. He's a good card. Oh, guys, I put on Twitter, on the MTG War website today, or the MTG War hashtag, Finale of Promise. X cost 2 red spell, sorcery, mythic rare, of course it needs to be, glorious artwork. It almost doesn't, it's not Nicobolus because I don't see the horns. It almost looks like Niv-mizzet Reborn. It's flying up there over very dark city. Anyways, you may cast up to, it is at sorcery speed, you may cast up to one target instant card and or up to one target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less. Okay, not too crazy for a mythic card. Sure, copy. We get that with oh god, how can I not think of that card right now? I'll come back to you. Anyways, it's a blue card from Dimir. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Okay, of course, yeah. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for this copy. Now, I immediately thought of the storm, the 1,000-Year Storm decks that I originally made. This, the first video I ever made on this channel was a 1,000-Year Storm deck that went well. It did good. And then on top of that, you put this in there, and you find a Finale of Promise. Let's say you somehow have 13 mana. I mean, they've been getting treasures recently, so it's not hard to find 13 mana anymore with treasure support. But Finale of Promise, you play an opt into a Finale of Promise. So opt first, blah, whatever, scry one, draw one. Finale of Promise twice. You pay the 10 mana for it, the 12 if you count the 2 red, and so you pay 12 mana. You copy 2 instants for sorceries. Let's say burn. Let's say the most basic burn, shock. Oh, we need like an electrify or something. I'm not sure of a sorcery burn because most of the time you see my instant. Oh, Screw the Critics is at sorcery speed. So let's see. That's because it doesn't say you. Graveyard. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard. Okay, so I guess you're going to need at least 2 Screw the Critics and 2 shocks. Okay, so anyways, you do it. What's the math on this? What is the math on this? So you would do it a lot. I do like that it's. I can't even do the math. I think it's like at least 26 spells in one turn. I mean, it gets ridiculous because of this right here. If a card, you may cast up to one target instant card and another sorcery card without paying its mana cost. So cast, and that's what the whole 1,000-Year Storms was about, was on cast triggers, not copy triggers. Now, there is a cast trigger right here with, you may cast. And then, but the copies of those cast are not going to get copied upon copy. It's going to be a crazy blowout game. I could see like a negative, 500 damage. It's pretty crazy, dude. And like, honestly, I could see this in some weird commander form as well. I'm very intrigued to brew with this card. It's interesting. It's one of the first X cards in a long time that I've been kind of like, oh, that's cool. You know, Banefire was alright, but this is cool. So anyways, Toll of the Invasion. 2 generic, 1 black. Looks like somebody's very depressed. And sees a lot of skeletons. Sorcery, uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card, and then you amass 1. Making a 1/1 zombie army token, or just putting it on a zombie army you already have. This is interesting. You're basically playing 3 mana for a creature, a 1/1 creature that also lets you choose a non-land permanent, and discard that from your opponent's hand. So that's pretty cool. You know, Thought Erasure is played a lot, and that's 2 mana. And that's the other thing, is that this only has the constraint of being 1 black mana. You have in Thought Erasure the constraint of being a blue and a black, so I would consider them on par, even though this is 1 more mana to cast. They are both at sorcery speed too, and I think Thought Erasure is an uncommon. That's really the only differences other than Amass versus Surveil. Surveil gives you card value, kind of, but Amass gives you creature value, so it's just different ways to look at it. You could potentially make a discard-only deck now that Davriel Kane's out, now that there's kind of ways to protect yourself more, and then there's also these little creatures you can make. So I like it some. Pledge of Unity, 1 generic, 1 green, 1 white, instant uncommon. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. You gain 1 life for each creature you control. No one hero will save the day. Today we must all be heroes. Gideon Jorah. And I love the art on this. I can't even tell all the planeswalkers that are in this picture. I obviously can see the one big Ajani. I think that's Davriel Kane because of his helmet. And I can obviously see Gideon Jorah in the middle with the Black Blade Reforged. But that's about all I can really see without, like really squinting. Anyways, love the card. It shows how everybody understands that not everybody is going to make it through this, okay? It's going to take... Don't go out on your own. As we can see from the trailer, what happens to Doc Faden. Please don't go out on your own. Please don't be a Gideon either, speaking of, and go out on your own. And you're fighting all these Eternals on a bridge right in front of Nicol Bolas for his amusement until Liliana finally decides to take your side. Anyways, love the trailer, guys. Please make another trailer. Jace's Triumph, 2 generic, 1 blue. Sorcery uncommon. Draw 2 cards. If you control a Jace Planeswalker, draw 3 cards. Hey, draw 3 for 3. That's pretty cool. His triumph was not in outsmarting Bolas's plan, but in understanding why ultimate power is self-defeating. I feel like just knowing Jace, his whole thing with mind control kind of, and being able to mess with memories, I feel like Jace did something to take over Nicol Bolas. That's just what it feels like. And like, I'm backing this up with the support of, that's obviously Bolas' Citadel right there, right? And then you see these like blue kind of Jace mana looking colors, Jace mana looking artwork, and they're coming from Jace. That's why I'm just like, maybe Jace took over the Citadel. I don't know. I do want to say that this is basically a divination. But unless you have a Jace Planeswalker out, it's basically a divination. So, Firemind's Vessel, 4 generic, artifact uncommon. Firemind's Vessel enters the battlefield. Tap it, add 2 mana of different colors. The city mourned niv-mizzet's death, but he left behind the components for his rebirth. Oh, that's kind of sad. The original niv-mizzet died. Oh, that's kind of sad, guys. Anyways, it's just a mana rock that hits you for 2 mana. Now, I did make the comparison to Gilded Lotus. Gilded Lotus is 5 generic and taps for 3 mana of the same color, where this is 4 generic and taps for 2 mana of different colors. So it's really just depending on what you're playing, but this could potentially be on par as Gilded Lotus, for I think 1 less rarity. You know, it's an uncommon versus a rare, I believe, is what Gilded Lotus is. So it's interesting to see the comparison. I think it will see play in Commander. And that's where a lot of people have been talking about this card. Contention Plan. 1 generic, 1 blue, sorcery, common. Proliferate first, then draw a card. Proliferate, by the way, because I don't think I've covered it anywhere else in this video. Choose any number of permanents and/or players. Then give each another counter of each kind already there, and then draw a card. Niv-mizzet has perfected a plan, but he had no control over the mortal minds who had to agree to implement it. And as you can see in the background here, it almost looks like I can definitely see Vraska because she's a Gorgon. I can't really see who that is. I think that might be Gideon or Raul. I can't tell. But anyways, they're making plans. And so I guess niv-mizzet left behind a plan after his rebirth to bring him back, I guess. I'm trying to piece together this very weird storyline. But today has kind of been about niv-mizzet. And then Centaur Nurturer, 3 generic, 1 green creature, Centaur Druid. It is a common. When Centaur Nurturer enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Cool. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color. Okay. I call upon the vigor of the grasses, the hopes of the flowers, and the dreams of the trees. It is a 2/4. It's a mana rock with a body. I like that, but I just don't think it will see play for real. It's a Centaur Druid. It's not even an elf, which makes me feel like it won't see play. So we're going to get into some real cool cards here. As far as the spoilers today so far, I haven't seen the 5th one, but there's 5 cards, and as you can see from this, they're kind of just the guilds coming together. In this particular one, you see the Conclave and the Simic. It's hard to kind of tell that the Simic is here, but it is the Simic. Bond of Flourishing, 1 generic, 1 green, sorcery, uncommon. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and you gain 3 life. We agree that life should flourish. We disagree on the optimal number of limbs. That's pretty funny to me. I like that. These are all kind of interesting, the flavor text, but that one's actually funny. So, it's a kind of a semi-tutor. I mean, not really a tutor, more like a scry. And put it into your hand. I don't exactly know how you would recall that, but it basically replaces itself for 2 mana between 3 different cards, and you gain 3 life. So I like that because it's better. It's a better version of Revitalize, in my opinion. Revitalize, granted, is more geared towards sorcery and instants, where this is more geared towards creatures and enchantments and planeswalkers. So I do like Bond of Flourishing. I think it will see play for sure, maybe even in a planeswalker deck. I like that it doesn't put in your graveyard, that it puts it into your library if you decide not to keep it, or if you can't keep it. Bond of Discipline, 4 generic, 1 white, sorcery, uncommon. Tap all creatures your opponents control. Creatures you control gain lifelink until the end of turn. This can turn your game around sometimes. We agree that order benefits everyone, but not until you enforce it. That's really cool. Orzhov and Azorius coming together. Really neat. I love it. I love seeing the kind of combined symbols. Now you can't really tell with the Simic and the Selesnya in this picture. I hope I didn't say Gruul. I meant Selesnya if I did. But you can definitely tell that the Orzhov symbol is going into the Azorius symbol here. And that's pretty cool. I love seeing the guilds coming together. And respectively, I think that they're ally. I forget the different names they have them for them, but there's one from Ravnica Allegiance paired with one from Guilds of Ravnica, and I think they called them enemy and allied colors. I don't know the background to that, so I'm sorry. Let's go into the next one. Bond of Insight. 3 generic, 1 blue, sorcery, uncommon. Each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Return up to 2 instants into or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Bond of Insight. I guess you can't bring Bond of Insight back to your hand. Of course, unless you mill it. Together, we can unlock secrets no one has ever dreamed of. I might even let you remember some of them. That's really cool. I like that. Jameer and Izzet working together. 2 of my favorite decks. Oh my gosh. They're making Tricolor. That's what they're doing. Orzhov makes Esper. Simic and Selesnya make Bant. This makes Grixis. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, man. That's pretty cool. For being able to basically surveil cards and then pick which 2 you want back in your end, that's pretty good too. I like that. And then also it mills return up to 2 from your graveyard. Okay, so that's good. And then it also mills your opponent. I like that too. That's pretty good for 4 mana. And that might even see play in a mill deck for sure. Bond of Revival. Let's see. Rakdos and what did I call this one to the right? It's Rakdos and Golgari. That's right. That's the Golgari Yes. You can see it kind of coming in the Rakdos mask. Anyways, Bond of Revival, 4 generic, 1 black. Sorcery, uncommon. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until your next turn. So that's pretty cool. There's a card right now that returns target creature card from a graveyard to the battlefield for 5 mana. I think it's like Rise from the Grave or something like that. It's in one of my Steal Your Stuff decks. Today we throw off the yoke of death. Either this is an affirmation of the eternal cyclical. How the hell do you say that word? Cyclical nature of life. Yeah, cyclical nature of life, or it's just hilarious. Depends on which of us you ask. Oh my god, that's how funny as heck. This makes Jund colors, and that's pretty cool. The symbol for Jund. Oh man, I'm loving these cards so much, guys. Y'all don't even understand how much happiness this brings me. The last one we're missing is Boros and Gruul coming together. That's red, green, and white. White, red, and green. Naya colors. That's pretty cool too. I like that. And you don't have to pay attention to my tricolors. I just think they're really interesting to kind of think out what the symbols mean. For instance, this technically would mean Jund. This technically would mean Grixis. So I do like that. I'm a nerd, guys. Welcome to the nerdum. Anyways, guys, I do believe that is the end of the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.